Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson, founder of Teach the Geek. It's an online platform for science and engineering professionals. Consider checking out the Teach the Geek to Speak Society. It's a monthly membership where you can get ongoing support in your public speaking journey. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Terra Winston. She is a leadership consultant and executive coach. I must admit, I don't know many engineers who have that type of job, but I guess I know one now. Apparently, Terra didn't get the memo that engineers aren't supposed to be leaders. They're supposed to sit in front of their computers.
I know, right? I keep doing it wrong.
So I'm really curious to learn about her journey from engineering to leadership. I'm also interested to learn about one of her speaking topics. Welcome to Teach the Geek interviews, Terra.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Terra, I saw that from the bit of research I did on you that you got a degree in systems engineering. So firstly, what is systems engineering and what motivated you to study that?
Okay, so this could be the entire podcast because it's one of my favorite questions. Y'all, you see this right here? If you're in a podcast, you can't see it, but trust me, I'm old. So systems engineering, when I first went into it, was really about how do you take a system of disparate things, anything. So whether it's a college system, whether it's a hospital, whether it's a chemical system, you take any system and how do you optimize disparate parts to work together for a single whole. It's a beautiful thing. It takes everything from industrial engineering. It takes some computer and what systems engineering that you think of today kind of stemmed from this space. It's operations research. But what I loved about it, it was problem solving. It didn't matter if you didn't know the discipline. It gave you a structured way to think through a problem. What are the things that I need? What are the resources that can help me solve it and get to an answer? And so it was beautiful. And I went to the University of Virginia, which, still to this day is one of the few undergrads that requires engineering students to write a thesis. And so if anybody wants to go to the UVA library, Terra is published with an entire thesis on modeling blood flow through a hospital through stochastic processes. I have no idea what that means today, but apparently it was very good when I did the thesis. And this type of background, it serves me as a consultant and served me almost in every single thing I've done that was not engineering, because everything in this world is problem solving.
Yeah, I could see that. Stochastic processes. I'll have to look that up afterwards.
Me too.
You wrote it and you don't know? That's a problem. Hey, you said it was a long time ago, so I guess, hey, you know what, it's fine. But I also noticed, Terra, that you got an MBA too. You weren't done with just getting a bachelor's degree. What was the motivation to get the MBA?
You know what I found? So I came out of engineering school, went and started working in management consulting. And what I started to learn was that I cared way more about how and why people worked than how and why things worked, right? And so again, engineering is this curiosity to figure out these things. And I was like, okay, what are the motivators behind people? What are all the pieces that are coming together? And so in my systems thinking way, the business world was a huge factor when you get into these companies to see not how things are supposed to work, but how people really work and what are the drivers. And so I decided that MBA was the right thing to do. And I'm so glad I did it.
So then when you graduated from school, the field that you ended up working in, you mentioned you did management consulting. Was that something you always planned on doing, or was that something you kind of fell into?
I didn't even know it existed when I went to college. I am part of a first-ish generation college family. So my uncle went to college, but my dad hadn't gone to college. So I didn't even know the world existed until, I started to meet people and learn about it. And again, it was such a perfect training ground. Management consulting is just about solving problems. And it was like, once I got into it, I really enjoyed the fact that I got to learn, and every new company is an opportunity to learn a new industry, a new process, meet new people, and really figure out how to make things work. And so to me, honestly, I feel like my training was engineering school, management consulting, and then business school. And then at that point is where I learned all the pieces that really helped me do what I do now. But can I be honest? I still, because I have clients in every industry, in every function, I learn every day. And it's been really great to kind of like blend all those pieces together.
And to answer your question, yes, you can be honest. Hopefully you have been honest up until this point, and you will continue to be honest past this point. So yes, absolutely. Honesty is always appreciated here.
Anybody that knows me knows I keep it 100 all the time.
Wonderful. Yes, and I appreciate that too. So are you the type of management consultant that goes into companies and tells them who they need to fire?
Sometimes. No, not not absolutely that way. But the honest answer is like, so as an executive coach and even as a consultant at times when, the question becomes like, how can I make this team better? So my personal mission in life is to help good people do great things. And all the work that I do is about knocking down the barriers that keep people from being their best. And sometimes it's organizations, sometimes it's their internal voice in their heads, and that's how coaching works. Sometimes it's just they don't know enough, and that's how training and all those pieces work. The number of times that I've sat down with organizations, and the honest answer is, okay, Neil, no names. Have you ever worked for a terrible leader?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they exist everywhere. Everyone's had one, right? So to be in an organization where there's someone terrible holding back an entire group of people, and you keep them just because they make a lot of money or they've made money in the past or they're connected to the right people, and then you want to know why everyone seems unhappy, and you don't want to change that? No, that's not okay. This person is detrimental to everyone else. And so in those times, I will say, you need to get rid of this person. But but I never go in because people are like, okay, well, how can we save $5 and then cut heads? But the idea that we should be creating teams, systems, organizations, and lives where people who really mean well, people who are in the right positions so that they can be their best. Hell yeah, I'm willing to say like it's time for some people to move out the way.
Okay. Is there ever an instance where you're working with somebody, you can tell that they are that terrible leader that you said, but you at least give them the heads up. Look, man, I've given you all the coaching, the training, all of that. It's either you straighten up or you're out of here. That's going to be my recommendation to the management.
So I'm glad you said that, because it's something that's different. Like particularly when I'm coaching, when someone hires me and says, I want you to coach this person that works on my team. My very first question is, are you about to fire this person? Like I actually won't take coaching gigs if the answer is you're just looking for a reason to put this person out, then fire them on your own. Don't waste my time, and it's an insult. Coaching is about, like, when you coach someone, it's about pouring in because you believe they can be better, right? So if I'm hired for coaching that way, and again I don't take, and there are plenty of consultants that will take roles where they're assessing who the right person is to go. Not at all. Right. But if I'm in an organization and we're working on certain things and I see something that's problematic, I don't say fire this person, but I will say, look, this is problematic. You got to fix something or this won't change. Right. And so like, yeah, I'm never the hatchet man. Like, and when I was in management consulting, I remember those projects back in the day that they would say, look, we just want to reduce headcount. And to me, like that's not my lane. And honestly, the reason that I started my business is I didn't want to be part of some of the big organizations that may have to do that. I can pick and choose to do the work that I want. And again, mine is mostly about growing and developing people.
Nice. When I was looking at your background, I saw that you worked in management consulting. It made me think of that movie Office Space. You remember that movie?
Yes.
I remember them coming in and just, oh man, they were looking to cut heads. But I really like your approach. Besides asking the question, is this somebody that you're looking to fire already? What kind of questions would you ask a potential client to see if they're a good fit for you?
Well, okay, so it's two versions, right? So I have some clients that find me individually. They hire me and I work with them, right? And so, so if you are a potential coachee, my questions will be like, why is now the right time to change? Coaching is hard work. It's not just sitting around and shooting the shit with me for a couple of hours. Like it really is getting being introspective and willing to work on the hard things. What I always tell people is, if it were easy for you to change these things, you'd have done it already and done it for free. Like you wouldn't call me.
Right.
So if you think the stuff we're going to work on, it'd be like, oh, you got this, I'll just change. That's not how it works. You really have to put in the time. And so why now? Right? Why now? And do you have time to do it? What are you willing to really give into this? So I think that piece, and then finding a good coach is chemistry. Some of it is just talking and making sure, like, my style fits what you need. And there's plenty of other great coaches out there, right? If I'm not your flavor, or if we won't work well together. So that's on the individual side. When a company hires me and they say, I want you to coach a leader, then my first question is, like, what are you seeing? Like what is bringing this issue to bear? Does the person know? Like what kind of feedback have you given them? You'd be shocked how many times people are like, oh yeah, this person needs to work on X, Y, Z. And then I asked, well, do they know what have you given them feedback about? They're like, yeah, we haven't really talked about it. Okay, so they didn't read your mind, and now we need a coach. Okay, right? Like, what am I walking into? To one point, a great example. Like I got a call to coach someone, and they were ready for promotion. Their work was great, but the leadership could not get enough of the other leaders to say okay. And HR said, we need to get them ready so that they can get promoted. And I said, okay, well, tell me why you can't get other people to buy in. And they said, well, he just doesn't feel like a leader. I said, well, that is incredibly non-specific. Right. What do you mean by, and I kept pushing, and they said, well, he's just a little fidgety. Okay, that's helpful. But to me, like, one of the things I'm most proud of about the work that I do, like, when I got to him and I said, why do you think you haven't been promoted? And he said what most people will say: not enough people have seen my work. They don't know how hard I'm working. And he had like a 12-point plan of how many more hours he was going to put into trying to get what he thought was the missing link. And it wasn't that, it was all presence. And what he and I worked on gravitas. Like, so again, it's not that the HR person didn't really know how to say it. It was this presence. Like, we all, when there's a leader that you want to follow and they've said 5 words, there's something that they show up in a certain way. So he had all the work, but had we not had the conversation and had not worked together, he would be busting his butt, doing all the wrong things, and getting even more frustrated because they wouldn't deliver what he thought was the missing gap because they never talked about it.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be so unfortunate if you were that person. You just think it's one thing and it's actually another thing. You have no clue it's that other thing, and you just every week or month or year that goes by, you become more and more disgruntled and frustrated. Man, I'm glad there are people like you that are able to go in there but for God's sakes, why couldn't they just say, you fidget too damn much, man? You cut that out, you're good. You get the promotion. Why do you need you to come in and say that?
Say it. Well, exactly, right. And like, there are so many people out there, like right now, if you are wondering why you haven't gotten promoted, if you haven't gotten direct feedback on the quality of your work, which is very easy to get like, that's the feedback we all get, right? Like, they give that freely. Right. If you haven't got that feedback, it's something else. And if you just keep working and don't figure out what something else is, you will keep being frustrated and keep being left behind. And no one teaches us that, right? And it's actually very hard, because here's the problem. If your HR person came to you and said, sir, you're very fidgety, you would have attitude.
Indeed you would. What the hell you mean?
Right? So HR person's like, I can't tell him that. Right. So part of it is translating. Like, so when you say fidgety, I can process like the fact that the fidgety, so remember, systems thinking, like, put all pieces together, right? I can process that there's something real and tangible about a leader that shows up in a certain way, right? And it's without saying word, like, you can go into a room and without knowing anybody can tell who the leader is based on how people talk, right? You can feel it. There are things that engender confidence in people, right? You don't need a leader that when you walk in, you're like, I'm scared, like, me too. That'll make you, but you can say, but have a leader that says, you know what, I'm really nervous too, but I think we can do this. Let's break it down. That's the leader you want to follow, right? So there's absolute value in leadership presence, but it gets all messed up with bias. It gets all messed up with these preconceived notions. It get all messed up with these things. And so much when I'm working with a client is pulling apart the pieces, right? How can you be your most authentic you, right? So he actually, he wasn't fidgety. In fact, his background was from academia before he moved into that space. And the way academics plead a case, like from a success model, you do it dispassionately, right? You pick your words very specifically. You tend to be a little bit more hesitant. What was happening, he wasn't fidgety, he was pausing on his words to get them right. But in that environment, leaders talk like this. And so it wasn't even fidgeting at the end, but they just like, all they know is they got this wave of feeling that it wasn't leader like. And being able to diagnose that and break it down and find a way for him to still be introverted, to still be himself and still have that gravitas, then you don't have to fix the fidgeting, because it really wasn't the issue. And people, again, well, I guess probably one of the favorite things that you get from engineering, the fact that correlation and causation are two different things. But people get very kind of caught up on the symptoms and and they tend to correlate things together rather than really diagnosing what the real issue is. And so I get, for me, the goal, whether it's a working individual or even, doing consulting for a whole team, what is really happening that's causing the issue, and fix that.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think now I think about it when you were talking, the idea of having someone like you come in, you're kind of dispassionate third party. I mean, you did mention like if you went up to, if the HR person came up to this person and said you're fidgety, they probably not going to take it all that well. But if it's a third party coming in as no dog in the fight, doesn't work for the company, coming in and telling you, the things that you need to work on, perhaps you're going to take those in a little more easily than if it coming from the company that you've been working for and for all this time, thinking you're doing the right thing, and it turns out there's other things that you need to be working on. So that makes perfect sense. Terra, is there ever an instance where the person that hires you is the problem? And if so, how do you deal with that?
Okay, that is a great question. Yes. I will say I have not had it happen as much lately. Like when you first start working and I started my business, I was in corporate, I was at PepsiCo, and what I realized is the company was great, but I kept looking at what the next roles would be and ultimately what you climb the ladder. And I was like, I don't know if I want the job at the top of the ladder. Like, wait a minute. So why am I running so hard? So, when I first started, you kind of end up, we'll work for food. Like, sure, I'll do that. Like, I do that too. Why not? And so in the early days, there were occasionally leaders that I'm just like, you are the problem. Now, my bank account's a little bit better. And I've had more time in the game, that there are times when I will, honestly, I'll pull, sometimes you can tell early. If I can tell early, then what I'll do is I'll kind of walk myself out of the running for the work. Right? Like, okay, this is what you need. And maybe you need something different. And maybe you need this. And when you have time for this, then maybe I'm your right person. So I'll Jedi mind trick them into oh, not now, not me. It's not it's me, not you. Right. So there'll be some time of that. And usually it's about they're not ready for the real work, or they're like, oh, we'll do all this stuff and fix them. And then I can be the same. Right. And so the best case scenario is when I can identify it early. If I can't identify early and I get into it and I realize that they're really not about that life, what I then do is we'll help them refocus their expectations, right? This is realistically what you can get from this team. And because a lot of times, if you're the person that hired me, it's not like I can tell you should fire yourself. And I will say that because of the work that I do, I'm really blessed that I don't think most people, they mean well, they're just not always open to changing themselves.
Right.
And so my goal may be to help them build more awareness of the impact they have. And because I fully believe one of the coaching tenets, if anyone that is trained in a coach will say that you have to believe your client is naturally resourceful and whole, right? You're not a crazy person. And so what I can say is like, look, I want it to be real. Until this changes, you're not going to get what you want out of this group. You don't have to change it though. Like you're allowed to stay the way you want to be, but realistically, this is what you should expect. And if they're okay with that, then I'm like, all right, then I'll work within this lane, but I can't tell you that you're going to have miraculous change in your people, so that they understand the consequences of not wanting to change. But we all have the right to say, I'm just going to be as crunchy and as as I want to be, and but what we don't have the right to say is, I don't want to change nothing, and I want everything to be better or different. Like that's not how this works.
I just imagine in scenarios where somebody's working at a company, sees you coming and they're thinking to themselves, wait, I ain't the problem. It's the person that's paying you.
Yeah, I hear that. I absolutely hear that. Well, and there are times when like let's be real, there are times in certain types of organizations where that's not going to change, right? So like people would work in family businesses, right, where things are passed back and forth. Like Bobby ain't losing his job. Nice. Like Bobby's gonna be here forever. Yeah. And if you decide to stay, some of our work can be, how can you be your best knowing that Bobby's not going to change, right? What do you need to, so a lot of my work is really, what's the really reals? What's the reality of your situation? Bobby's going to be a jerk, but you also know how to play Bobby, right? You know what things get him excited. You know he needs a nap around 3 o'clock. How are you taking your awareness of the political environment, of your natural energy, of where you want to go, of where you want to be, and then take wherever moment you're in? Because like not everybody can just quit a job. Let's be real about this. Take this moment and maximize it as best you can for yourself. And at the same time, if the answer is like you can't work with Bobby and he's not going to give you a path forward and a promotion is what you need, we need to be thinking about when can we make an exit? How can we put the things in place that you can feel comfortable making an exit? So, so much of it is about empowering people to take the space that they're in and be the best in it if they can't change it, and then change the parts they can.
Nice. From the bit of research that I did on you, Terra, I saw that one of your speaking topics, you talk about people using their unique abilities to lead. So I can recognize that people have unique abilities, but are there certain traits that every leader needs to have to be an effective leader?
I think there are, but they're probably not what everyone is expecting them to be. So for years, all the leadership research has come back and talked about leadership agility, the ability to learn, right? To see what's going on around you, absorb it, and keep the learning process open so that you can shift and move pieces as you need. I think is the number one thing that every leader needs to have. And because then that allows your unique ability. Your unique ability is a lens, right? So think about it as sunglasses. Your unique ability is like, this is how you see the world, and you can manage it in that kind of way. And it does, but you should always be looking at out at different windows. You should be looking at different things. You should keep your view open. So I think leadership agility is probably number one. So keep yourself learning. Number two is the desire to build trust. You can build trust a million different ways. As a leader, you should have a value for building trust, and not everyone does. So probably the most destructive leaders, so think dictators or mini dictators in companies. They're not trying to build your trust. They're like, these are the people that you will say I'd rather be feared than loved, or that type of construct. So how you build trust, your unique ability will speak to different things. Like you may be someone who is really good at building intimate relationships, one-on-one, but maybe not a great public speaker. You may be someone that loves data. You may be someone that hates data, but loves organization, right? And in whatever your set of unique abilities are, you can actually craft your own way to build trust. And that's why unique ability is so important. The way Neil does it is not going to be how Terra does it. Nor should it, because it'll feel false. But I need you to recognize that you should be building trust. and want that to happen. So I think those are probably, in my opinion, the two most important things about, for leaders. Um, I think everything else is fairly negotiable.
Yeah, those are two great tips, Sarah. To do the type of work that you do, you have to be good at communicating with people. And so, for the people that are watching or listening, what tips could you offer them to become more comfortable or just more effective in communicating with others?
So probably the the thing that has worked most for me is I am not polished at all. I wish I could say, like, I love all those TED Talk videos where they take the TED Talk and they practice it a million times and they have every word down, they have every gesture down perfectly. And times I'm not that girl. I am not. And so what people respond to from me is authenticity. I make mistakes, and then I say I made a mistake, and I'll be on stage. I'll say, y'all made a mistake. And then like, and you know what? We just keep talking and they're fine with it. And it connects people to me, right? I'm not trying to put on airs or be anything different. And so, over time, I think for like that that has been the basis of my I'd say communication prowess, is because I actually care very deeply about the people I'm communicating to. It's actually never about me. Like, people will ask me like, okay, well, like, are you nervous before you get on a big stage? And the honest answer is probably no, because I'm not actually thinking about me. If I thought I was going to be on a stage, like with all these people looking at me, I would freak out. That's stressful. But when I'm on a stage is because I'm talking to you and you and you and if I can help you get more and learn and be better and figure out your life hacks and just and have a good time, that's my purpose and my goal. So it's not even about me. It's always about the person that's on the other side listening to it. And so even like so in individual communication, I'm listening to you because I want to show up for you. I'm like, what is it that Neil wants and needs this time? Neil is endlessly fascinating people, just so you know. And every other person that you talk to is endlessly fascinating. I get curious about them. And that has been by far like the easiest and most effective communication method that I have. I will say, like, I probably spend the most time thinking about how I can be as clear to people as possible, right? So not like like are they going to get me, but really like what is it they need to hear? What connects them to the things that matter to them on a regular basis versus the things that matter to me? Like I may believe that this thing I'm communicating is important, but y'all are busy. Like you have life, you have families. The Bachelor is on us at times. Like they like you're really really busy. So if I can't make this relevant to you and usable to you in the moment, then what's the point? And so think about even individual communication. Like if I'm sitting and having a meeting with one of my old manager, how do they need to hear it first? Like what is like my old manager, we all like love. So I have a manager. I had a lot of bad managers. I had some great ones too, and my manager is still my mentor and friend to this day. But I knew that there were certain ways that she was able to absorb the information better than others. I knew the things that she cared about, and so I was always tailoring the communication to the end of meeting her needs. And I think like if you do that in every situation, then communication is easy.
No question. Well, Tara, it's been so great talking to you today. Thank you for being a guest.